Not Facebook. YouTube. YouTube up in a second. Shayla, hey girl, hey. Alicia, happy Friday. Levon. All right, y'all. Replay, yes. Public, yeah. Peace and blessings, Stephanie. China. That's trouble. Uncle Nathaniel, peaceful greetings. All right, y'all. We live in both places. Ready to go. Sorry about my few minutes tardiness. I guess technically I'd be a few minutes tardy every day, don't I? I said a minute ago I was gonna be up here 5 minutes early every day. I'm still working on that. No, seriously. I had to get Bella straight this morning. It's always something, right? I guess I should, as long as I've been doing this, I should prepare for the morning shenanigans, right? Sometimes it don't work that way. But I guess maybe it could if I was just a little more diligent about it. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, happy Friday, everybody. Happy Friday. Today is September the 3rd, 2021. It is day 250 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets and of the 3-year consecutive day count. Day 919. Today we're reading the rest of the chapters in Joel, chapter 2, 3, and 4. Joel got 4 chapters, right? 4. Yeah. And then we're going to pick up where we left off at in chapter 1. In Caesar's Messiah on page 35. All right, beautiful people. So let's go ahead and do the Shema so we can get started. I'm going to get through the rest of this chapter today. All right. Remember, the Shema is found in Deuteronomy chapter 6, starting verse 3. Remember to read the full chapter. Okay. I just kind of summed it up with the meat potatoes of it all. Hear, therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuwah, the mighty one of our fathers, has promised us in a land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah, our mighty one, he is one, not 2, not 3, but he is one. Then you shall love Yahuwah, your mighty one, with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart, and you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and you shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them upon the posts of your house and over your gates. And Yahuwah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuwah, our mighty one, for our good always, that he might preserve us alive, as it is at this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before Yahuwah, our mighty one, as he has commanded us. All right, y'all. So let's go ahead and start over here. Pull this back up. Joel chapter 2. All right. Where to go? Okay, there we go. Let me get it. All right, y'all. All right, Joel chapter 1. Not chapter 1, chapter 2. Locusts invade like an army. Sound the trumpet in Jerusalem. Raise the alarm on my holy mountain. Let everyone tremble in fear, because the day of Yahuwah is upon us. It is a day of darkness and gloom, a day of thick clouds and deep blackness. Suddenly Like dawn spreading across the mountains, a great and mighty armor appears. Nothing like it has ever been seen before or will ever be seen again. Fire burns in front of them, and flames follow after them. Ahead of them, the land lies as beautiful as the Garden of Eden. I hate when I say this, I'm sorry. It keeps chopping. I'm going to use this. Okay. Ahead of them the land lies as beautiful as the Garden of Eden. Behind them is nothing but desolation. Not one thing escapes. They look like horses. They charge forward like war horses. Look at them as they leap along the mountains. Listen to the noise they make, like the rumbling of chariots, like the roar of fire sweeping across a field of stubble, or like a mighty army moving into battle. Fear grips all the people. Every face grows pale with terror. The attackers march like warriors and scale city walls like soldiers. Straight forward they march, never breaking rank. They never jostle each other. Each moves in exactly the right position. They break through the defenses without missing a step. They swarm over the city and run along its walls. They enter all the houses, climbing like thieves through the windows. The earth quakes as they advance, and the heavens tremble. The sun and moon grow dark, and the stars no longer shine. The Lord is at the head of the column. He leads them with a shout. This is his mighty army, and they follow his orders. The day of Yahuwah is an awesome, terrible thing. Who can possibly survive? A call to repentance. This is what Yahuwah says. Turn to me now while there is time. Give me your hearts. Come with fasting, weeping, and mourning. Don't tear your clothing and grieve, but tear your hearts instead. Return to Yahuwah your God, for he is merciful and compassionate, slow to get angry, and filled with unfailing love. He is eager to relent and not punish. Who knows? Perhaps he will give you a reprieve, sending you a blessing instead of this curse. Perhaps you will be able to offer grain and wine to Yahuwah your God as before. Blow the ram's horn in Jerusalem. Announce a time of fasting. Call the people together for a solemn meeting. Gather all the people, the elders, the children, and even the babies. Call for the bridegroom from his quarters and the bride from her private room. Let the priests who minister in Yahuwah's presence stand and weep between the entry room to the temple and the altar. Let them pray. Spare your people, O Yah. Don't let your special possession become an object of mockery. Don't let them become a joke for unbelieving foreigners who say, has the God of Israel left them? Yahuwah's promise of restoration. Then Yahuwah would pity his people and jealously guard the honor of his land. Yahuwah would reply, look, I am sending you grain and new wine and olive oil, enough to satisfy your needs. You will no longer be an object of mockery among the surrounding nations. I will drive away these armies from the north. I will send them into the parched wastelands. Those in the front will be driven into the Dead Sea, and those at the rear into the Mediterranean. The stench of their rotting bodies will rise over the land. Surely Yahuwah has done great things. Don't be afraid, O land. Be glad now and rejoice, for Yahuwah has done great things. Don't be afraid, you animals of the field, for the wilderness pastures will soon be green. The trees will again be filled with fruit, and fig trees and grapevines will be loaded down once more. Rejoice, you people of Jerusalem. Rejoice in Yahuwah your God, for the rain he sends demonstrates his faithfulness. Once more the autumn rains will come, as well as the rains of spring. The threshing floors will again be piled high with grain, and the presses will overflow with new wine and olive oil. Yahuwah says, I will give you back what you lost to the swarming locust, the hopping locust, the stripping locust, and the cutting locust. It was I who sent this great destroying army against you. Once again, you will have all the food you want, and you will praise Yahuwah your God, who does these miracles for you. Never again will my people be disgraced. Then you will know that I am among my people Israel, that I am Yahuwah your God, and there is no other. Never again will my people be disgraced. Yahuwah's promise of his spirit. Then, after doing all those things, I will pour out my spirit upon all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your old men will dream dreams, and your young men will see visions. In those days, I will pour out my spirit even on servants, men and women alike, and I will cause wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood and fire and columns of smoke. The sun will become dark, and the moon will turn blood red before that great and terrible day of Yahuwah arrives. But everyone who calls on the name of Yahuwah will be saved. For some on Mount Zion in Jerusalem will escape, just as Yahuwah has said. These will be among the survivors whom Yahuwah has called. Joel chapter 3. Noble, good morning. Mom, shalom. Sackcloth. Anava, shalom. Queen, Ra TV, bless. Bonnie, amen. Josiah, shalom. Tony, Jay, you late again, bro, but you're here. All right, y'all. Joel chapter 3. Judgment against enemy nations. At the time of those events, says Yahuwah, when I restore the prosperity of Judah and Jerusalem, I will gather the armies of the world into the valley of Jehoshaphat. There I will judge them for harming my people, my special possession, for scattering my people among the nations, and for dividing up my land. They threw dice to decide which of my people would be their slaves. They traded boys to obtain prostitutes, and sold girls for enough wine to get drunk. What do you have against me, Tyre and Sidon, and you cities of Philistia? Are you trying to take revenge on me? If you are, then watch out. I will strike swiftly and pay you back for everything you have done. You have taken my silver and gold and all my precious treasures, and have carried them all to your pagan temples. You have sold the people of Judah and Jerusalem to the Greeks, so they could take them far from their homeland. But I will bring them back from all the places which you sold them, and I will pay you back for everything you have done. I will sell your sons and daughters to the people of Judah, and they will sell them to the people of Arabia, a nation far away. I, Yahuwah, have spoken. Say to the nations far and wide, get ready for war. Call out your best warriors. Let all your fighting men advance for the attack. Hammer your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Train even your weaklings to be warriors. Come quickly, all you nations everywhere. Gather together in the valley. And now, O Yahuwah, call out your warriors. Let the nations be called to arms. Let them march to the valley of Jehoshaphat. There I, Yahuwah, will sit to pronounce judgment on them all. Swing the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, tread the grapes, for the wine press is full. The storage vats are overflowing with the wickedness of these people. Thousands upon thousands are waiting in the valley of decision. There the day of Yahuwah will soon arrive. The sun and moon will grow dark, and the stars will no longer shine. Yahuwah's voice will roar from Zion and thunder from Jerusalem, and the heavens and the earth will shake. But Yahuwah will be a refuge for his people and a strong fortress for the people of Israel. Blessings for Yahuwah's people. Then you will know that I, Yahuwah, your God, live in Zion among my holy mount. Hold on, I messed that up. Then you will know that I, Yahuwah, your God, live in Zion, my holy mountain. Jerusalem will be holy forever, and foreign armies will never conquer her again. In that day, the mountains will drip with sweet wine, and the hills will flow with milk. Water will fill the stream beds of Judah, and a fountain will burst forth from Yahuwah's temple, watering the arid valley of Acacia. But Egypt will become a wasteland, and Edom will become a wilderness, because they attacked the people of Judah and killed innocent people in their land. But Judah will be filled with people forever, and Jerusalem will endure through all generations. I will pardon my people's crimes, which I have not yet pardoned, and I, Yahuwah, will make my home in Jerusalem with my people. Also, it's 3 chapters. We're going to read Amos chapter 1. This message was given to Amos, a shepherd from the town of Tekoa in Judah. He received this message in visions 2 years before the earthquake, when Uzziah was king of Judah and Jeroboam II, the son of Jehoash, was king of Israel. This is what he saw and heard. Yahuwah's voice will roar from Zion and thunder from Jerusalem. The lush pastures of the shepherds will dry up. The grass on Mount Carmel will wither and die. Yahuwah's judgment on Israel's neighbors. This is what Yahuwah says. The people of Damascus have sinned again and again, and I will not let them go unpunished. They beat down my people in Gilead as grain is threshed with iron sledges. So I will send down fire on King Hazael's palace, and the fortresses of Ben-Hadad will be destroyed. I will break down the gates of Damascus and slaughter the people in the valley of Avon. I will destroy the ruler in Beth Eden, and the people of Aram will go as captives to Kir, says Yahuwah. This is what Yahuwah says. The people of Gaza have sinned again and again, and I will not let them go unpunished. They sent whole villages into exile, selling them as slaves to Edom. So I will send down fire on the walls of Gaza, and all its fortresses will be destroyed. I will slaughter the people of Ashdod and destroy the king of Ashkelon. Then I will turn to attack Ekron, and the few Philistines left will be killed, says the sovereign Lord. This is what Yahuwah says. The people of Tyre have sinned again and again, and I will not let them go unpunished. They broke their treaty of brotherhood with Israel, selling whole villages as slaves to Edom. So I will send down fire on the walls of Tyre, and all its fortresses will be destroyed. And Yahuwah about to get to everybody, y'all. He ain't gonna leave nobody out. This is what Yahuwah says. The people of Edom have sinned again and again, and I will not let them go unpunished. They chased down their relatives, the Israelites, with swords, showing them no mercy. In their rage, they slashed them continually and were unrelenting in their anger. So I will send down fire on Teman, and the fortresses of Basra will be destroyed. This is what Yahuwah says. The people of Ammon have sinned again and again, and I will not let them go unpunished. When they attacked Gilead to extend their borders, they ripped open the pregnant women with their swords. So I will send down fire on the walls of Rabbah, and all its fortresses will be destroyed. The battle will come upon them with shouts like a whirlwind and a mighty storm, and their king and his princes will go into exile together, says Yahuwah. And this is where we pause at today, my beautiful people. Those are the last two chapters of Joel, chapter 2 and 3, and Amos, chapter 1. And Amos, y'all getting it to everybody. The whole book. He gonna bring up Israel too for their foolishness. He ain't gonna leave nobody out. Ain't nobody gonna be left behind. All right, y'all. Let's hop on over here to Caesar's Messiah. All right, y'all. Some more people came in. Lisa, shalom. Ali, shalom. Auntie, joyful risings. Jerry, you're welcome. You're welcome. All right, y'all. Oh, okay. I was doing it backwards. The top of page 35 if you got the book. There was nothing unusual in Josephus's recognition of Vespasian as a god. The Flavians merely continued the tradition of establishing emperors as god that the Julio-Claudian line of Roman emperors had begun. Julius Caesar, the first deus, or divine, deus means divine. Julius Caesar, the first deus, divine of that line, claimed to have been descended from Venus. The Roman Senate is said to have decreed that he was a god because a comet appeared shortly after his death, thus demonstrating his divinity. In 80 CE, Titus established an imperial cult for his father, who had passed away during the previous year. The cult was politically important to Titus because Vespasian's deification would break the Julio-Claudian line of divine succession and thereby secure the throne for the Flavians. Because only the Roman Senate could bestow the title of deist, Titus first needed to convince them that Vespasian had been a god. There was evidently some difficulty in arranging this. However, Vespasian's consecratio did not occur until 6 months after his death, an unusually long interval. Titus also created a priesthood, the Flamines, Flamines, to administer the cult. The cult of Vespasian was not isolated to Rome, and appointments were made throughout the provinces. In the area surrounding Judea, a Roman bureaucracy called the Commune Asiae oversaw the cult. Notably, all 7 of the Christian churches of Asia mentioned in Revelation 1 and 11 had agencies of the commune located within them. Upon her death, Titus also secured the deification of his sister, Domitilia. In going through the process of deifying his father and sister and establishing their cults, Titus received an education and skill few humans have ever possessed. He learned how to create a religion. Titus not only created and administered religions, he was a prophet. While emperor, he received the title of Pontifex Maximus, which made him the high priest of the Roman religion and the official head of the Roman College of Priests, the same title and office that, once Christianity had become the Roman state religion, its popes would assume. As Pontifex, yeah, you heard that right. Right, you heard that right. Christianity is a Roman faith, right? Catholicism. Christianity is a religion created by Rome. I know y'all know that, but just in case, that's what it is. Robert, that's why. As Pontifex Maximus, Titus was responsible for a large collection of prophecies called the Annals Maximi, Annales Maximi. Okay. As Pontifex Maximus, or Pope, Titus was responsible for a large collection of prophecies every year and officially recorded celestial and other signs, as well as the events that had followed these omens, so that future generations would be able to better understand the divine will. Titus was unusually literate. He claimed to take shorthand faster than any secretary and to be able to forge any man's signature, and stated that under different circumstances, he could have become the greatest forger in history. Suetonius records that Titus possessed conspicuous, I think that's the word. Conspicuous, okay. Suetonius records that Titus possessed conspicuous mental gifts and made speeches and wrote in Latin and in Greek, and that his memory was extraordinary. Titus's brother Domitian, who succeeded him as emperor, also used religion to his advantage. In addition to deifying his brother, Domitian attempted to link himself to Jupiter, the supreme god of the Roman Empire, by having the Senate decree that the god had mandated his rule. Not only did the Flavians create religions, they performed miracles. In the following passage from Tacitus, Vespasian is recorded as curing one man's blindness and another's withered limb. Miracles also performed by none other than Jesus. Okay, remember, if y'all ain't quoting on, if y'all haven't been here the last couple of days, we're seeing how the New Testament was created, starting with the Gospels, which is not really a religious book. It's really a political campaign book of war, right? All right. Not only did the Flavians create religions, they performed miracles. In the following passage from Tacitus, Vespasian is recorded as curing one man's blindness and another's withered limb, miracles also performed by Jesus. Quote, one of the common people of Alexandria, well known for his blindness, begged Vespasian that he would deign to moisten his cheeks and eyeballs with his spittle. Another, with a diseased hand, prayed that the limb might feed the print of a Caesar's foot. And so Vespasian accomplished what was required. The hand was instantly restored to its use, and the light of day again shone upon the blind. End quote. The Gospels record that Jesus also used this method of curing blindness, that is, by placing spittle on a blind man's eyelids. Quote, after thus speaking, he spat on the ground, and then, kneading the dust and spittle into clay, he smeared the clay over the man's eyes and said to him, go and wash in the pool of Siloam. The name means sent. So he went and washed his eyes and returned able to see. End quote. And that's found in John chapter 9, verses 6 through 7. Hallelujah, Ali. All right. Thanks for sharing. Other stories were circulated about Vespasian that suggested his divinity. One involved a stray dog dropping a human hand at Vespasian's feet. The hand was a symbol of power to first century Romans. Another tale described an ox coming into Vespasian's dining room and literally falling at the emperor's feet and lowering his neck as if recognizing to whom its sacrifice was due. Circulating tales that suggested that they were gods was no doubt thought by the Flavians to be a good tonic for holy-poly. Hoipolloi. The more an emperor was seen by his subjects to be divine, the easier it was for him to maintain his control over them. The Flavians certainly focused on manipulating the masses. To promote the policy of bread and circuses, they built the Colosseum where they staged shows with gladiators and wild beasts that involved mass slaughter. Imperial cults that portrayed Roman emperors as gods and workers of miracles appear to have been created solely because they were politically useful. The cults seem to have evoked no religious emotion. No evidence of any spontaneous offerings attesting to the sincerity of the worshippers has ever been discovered. The advantage of converting one's family into a succession of gods appealed to many Roman emperors. 36 of the 60 emperors from Augustus to Constantine and 27 members of their families were apostatized and received the title of deists. Of course, inventors of fictitious religions must have a certain cynicism in regard to the sacred. Vespasian was quoted on his deathbed as saying, "Oh my, I must be turning into a god." I should have said, quote, "Oh my, I must be turning into a god," end quote. Pliny commented on the cynicism that the Flavians felt toward the religions they had created. Notice in the following quote Pliny's understanding that Titus had made himself a son of God. Quote, Titus defied Vespasian and Domitian Titus, but only so that one would be the son of God and the other the brother of a god. End quote. The cynicism that the patrician, okay. Yeah, I think that's patrician. The cynicism that the patrician class felt toward religion was a subject of the satires of the Roman poet Juvenal. While the exact dates of Juvenal's birth and death are unknown, it is believed that he lived during the era of the Flavians. One of his satires concerns Agrippa and Bernice, the mistress of Titus. Tradition has it that Juvenal was banished from Rome by Domitian. Sophisticated Romans, like those Juvenal wrote about, did not believe in the gods, but rather in fortune and fate. The prevailing ethos of the patrician class was that the world was either ruled by blind chance or immutable destiny. Quote, fortune has no divinity, could we but see it. It's we ourselves, who make her a goddess and set her in the heavens. End quote. Okay. Judging from the works of Juvenal, many Romans saw all religious belief, including their own, as ridiculous. Quote, just hark at those loud denials, observe the assurance of the lying face. He'll swear by the sun's rays, by Jupiter's thunderbolts, by the lance of Mars, by the arrows of Delphic Apollo, by the quiver and shafts of Diana, the virgin huntress, by the trident of Neptune, our father of the Aegean. He'll throw in Hercules' bows and spear of Minerva, the armories of Olympus, down to their very last item. And if he is a father, he'll cry, may I eat my own son's noodle. Poor child. Well boiled and soused in vinaigrette dressing. End quote. Juvenal was also cynical toward Judaism. His attitude regarding the religion suggests that many within the patrician class saw the religion, and no doubt its offspring, Christianity, as barbaric cults. Quote, a Palese Jewess, parking her haybox outside, comes begging in a breathy whisper. She interprets Jerusalem's laws. She is the tree's high priest. She likewise fills her palm, but more sparingly. Jews will sell you whatever dreams you like for a few coppers. End quote. Given this patrician cynicism, it is odd that so many members of the Flavian family were recorded as having been among Christianity's first members. Why was a Judaic cult that advocated meekness and poverty so attractive to a family that practiced neither? The tradition connecting early Christianity and the Flavian family is based on solid evidence, but has received little comment from scholars. The best known of the Christian Flavians was Pope Clement I. He is described in the Catholic Encyclopedia as the first pope about whom anything definite is known, and was recorded in early church literature as being a member of the Flavian family. Pope Clement was the first pope who was referred to by individuals known to history and who left behind written works. He purportedly wrote the Epistle of Clement to the Corinthians, quoted previously. Thus, Clement is of a great significance to the church's history. In fact, while the Catholic Encyclopedia currently lists Clement as the fourth bishop of Rome, or pope, that was not the assertion of many early church scholars. St. Jerome wrote that in his time, most of the Latins held that Clement had been the direct successor of Peter. Tertullian also knew of this tradition. He wrote, the Church of Rome records that Clement was ordained by Peter. Origen, Eusebius, and Epiphanes also placed Clement at the very beginning of the Roman Church, each of them stating that Clement had been a fellow laborer of the Apostle Paul. Scholars have seen that the list of popes given by Irenaeus, circa 125 to 202, that names Clement as the fourth pope is suspect, and it is notable that the Roman Church chose to use it as its official history. This list names Linus as the second pope, followed by Anacletus, and then Clement. The list comes from Irenaeus, who identifies Linus the Pope as the Linus mentioned in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 21. Scholars have speculated that Irenaeus chose Linus simply because he was the last male that Paul mentioned in the epistle, which supposedly was written immediately before Paul's martyrdom. The province of Pope Nicolatus may be no better. In Titus, the epistle that immediately follows Timothy in the canon, it is stated, the bishop shall be irreproachable. In Greek, irreproachable is and Cletus. Irenaeus may not have known who the popes between Peter and Clement were, and therefore had to invent names for them. If this was the case, then after creating Linus as Peter's successor, irreproachable as the next bishop of Rome, his imagination may have become strained because the name he chose for the sixth pope on his list was Sixus, Sixus. It also seems strange that the Roman Church chose to use Irenaeus' list, considering that it originated in the East. The idea that Clement was the second pope is no weaker historically and reflects the papal sequence that was known in Rome. Perhaps early church officials preferred not to use a list stating that Clement was Peter's direct successor because of the traditional view that he was a member of the Flavian family. The notion that Pope Clement was a Flavian was recorded in the Acts of Saints Marinus and Archelaus, a 5th or 6th century work based on even earlier traditions. This work directly linked the Flavian family to Christianity, a fact that is noted in the Catholic Encyclopedia. Quote, Titus Flavius Sabinus, consul in 82, put to death by Domitian, the emperor, Titus's brother, whose sister he had married. Pope Clement is represented as his son in the Acts of the Saints Nereus and Archelaus. End quote. Titus Flavius Sabinus' brother Clemens, who also was also linked to Christianity. Let me read it again. Titus Flavius Sabinus' brother Clemens was also linked to Christianity. The Act of Saints Nereus and Archelaus states that Clemens was a Christian martyr. Clemens is believed to have married Vespasian's granddaughter and his first cousin, Flavia Domitilla, who was yet another Christian Flavian. In the case of Flavia Domitilla, there is extant evidence linking her to Christianity. The oldest Christian burial site in Rome has inscriptions naming her as its founder. Quote, the catacomb of Domitilla is shown by existing inscriptions to have been founded by her. Owing to the purely legendary character of these acts, we cannot use them as an argument to aid in the controversy. Yes, baby girl.
Now I can get my ice cream.
Wait a few minutes. Since you just cracked your eyes not too long ago. Just wait. Just wait. Go ask Dad if you can have it. You trying to sit up there and watch TV and eat the ice cream. Tootie.
Turn the TV on.
Oh, it was too loud, huh?
Dad just turned Titus off.
Oh, well, he's sick of Titus. Okay, listen, don't start. I'll give it to you when I'm done, okay? She got this little icy she wants. Okay, let me read that again. Quote, the catacomb of Domitilla is shown by the existing inscriptions to have been founded by her. Owing to the purely legendary character of these acts, we cannot use them as an argument to aid in the controversy as to whether there were two Christians of the name Domitilla in the family of the Christian Flavians or only one, the wife of the consul Flavius Clemens. End quote. The Talmud records the genealogy of Christianity's purported first pope differently than does the Acts of Saints Nereus and Archelaus. It records that Flavia Domitilla, who was the mother of Clemens, and in parentheses, Kalonymos, Kalonymos, was not Titus's niece, but rather his sister. This links Peter's purported successor a generation closer to Titus, perhaps placing him within his very household. Nereus and Archelaus, the authors of their acts, are listed within the Catholic Encyclopedia as among the religion's first martyrs and were also linked to the Flavian family. Quote, the old Roman list of the 5th century, and which passed over into the Martyrologium, I know I'm screwing this up. It's like a martyr something, right? Okay. I'm going to spell it. I'm going to try and pronounce it again. MartyroLogium. And the next word is Hienoymianum. Okay. Martyrologium Hienoymianum. I ain't illiterate, y'all. Okay. Contain the names of the two martyrs, Nereus and Archelaus, whose grave was in the catacomb of Domitilla on the Via Ardentina. The acts of these martyrs placed their deaths in the end of the first and beginning of the second centuries. According to these legends, Nereus and Archelaus were eunuchs and chamberlains of Flavia Domitilla, a niece of the Emperor Domitian. The graves of these two martyrs were on an estate of the Lady Domitilla. We may conclude that they are among the most ancient martyrs of the Roman Church and stand in very near relation to the Flavian family, of which Domitilla, the foundress of the catacomb, was a member. In the Epistle to Romans, St. Paul mentions a Nereus with his sister, to whom he sends greetings. End quote. This reference by Paul to a Nereus and his sister is interesting, and none of us ever catch this when we so deep in the throes of the New Testament worshiping Jesus, right? Pay attention, y'all. Listen, this reference by Paul to a Nereus and his sister is interesting. Tradition maintains that Domitian killed several family members who were Christians, as well as someone named Achilles Glabrio, whom a tradition also claims was a Christian, all of which permits the conjecture that the Nereus mentioned by Paul may have been the author of the Acts, and that the Achilles Domitian slew may have been Nereus's literary partner. Literary partner. Another individual linked to both Christianity and the Flavian family was Bernice, the sister of Agrippa, who is actually described in the New Testament as having known the Apostle Paul. She became Titus's mistress and was living with him at the Flavian court in 75 CE, the same time Josephus was purportedly writing the Wars of the Jews. Of interest is that Bernice's name in Greek is Bernice, pronounced Bereniki, and it actually sounds it out like that with the dashes and stuff. Bereniki. And in Hebrew, her name is Veronica. It is also of note that the early Christian cult of Veronica is headquartered at the palace of Bernice in Rome. Flavius Josephus, an adopted member of the family, also had a connection to the beginnings of Christianity. His works provided the New Testament with its primary independent historical documentation and were certainly read by his imperial patrons. In fact, Titus ordered the publication of the Wars of the Jews. In his autobiography, Josephus writes that Titus was so desirous that the knowledge of these affairs should be taken from these books alone that he affixed his own signature to them and gave orders for their publication. Perhaps the most unusual connection between Christianity and the Flavians, however, is the fact that Titus Flavius fulfilled all of Jesus's doomsday prophecies. As mentioned above, the parallels between the description of Titus's campaign in the Wars of the Jews and Jesus' prophecies caused early church scholars to believe that Christ had seen into the future. The destruction of the temple, the encircling of Jerusalem with a wall, the towns of Galilee being brought low, the destruction of what Jesus described as the wicked generation, etc., had all been prophesied by Jesus and then came to pass during Titus's military campaign through Judea. a campaign that, like Jesus' ministry, began in Galilee and ended in Jerusalem. Thus, the Flavians are linked to Christianity by an unusual number of facts and traditions. Early church documents flatly state that the family produced some of the religion's first martyrs, as well as the pope who succeeded Peter. The Flavians created much of the literature that provides documentation for the religion, were responsible for its oldest known cemetery, and housed individuals named in the New Testament within their imperial court. Further, the family was responsible for Jesus' apocalyptic prophecies having come to pass. These connections clearly deserve more attention than they have received. Some explanation is required for the numerous traditions linking an obscure Judean cult to the imperial family. Connections that include not merely converts to the religion, but, if the acts of Nereus and Achilles and Eusebius are to be believed, the direct successor to Peter. If Christianity was invented by the Flavians to assist them in their struggle with Judaism, it would merely have been a variation upon a long-established theme. Using religion for the good of the state was a Roman technique long before the Flavians. In the following quote, which could have well been studied by the young Titus Flavius during his education at the imperial court, Cicero not only prefigures much of the Christian theology, but also actually advocates for the state to persuade the masses to adopt the theology most appropriate for the empire. Just to sum up what he just said, they use religion as a way of keeping control of the masses, because we heard in the last couple of days the SATIRE, which was a sect of Hebrews, right? They call them Jews, but a sect of Hebrews who knew their history and knew that their Messiah, or the deliverer that would come to deliver them from Rome's evil rule, would be a military warrior, right? And they weren't taking any kind of flack from Rome, and they were always at war with the SATIRE, right? Because they was trying to push, Rome was trying to, they recreated their Messiah and say, oh, this is him, and they made him into this sweet, loving person that says, hey, submit to everybody, submit to Rome. They were trying to subdue the Jews, or the Hebrews, right? Because they were not having it. And eventually, their plot and their ploy and their scheme eventually won over. As we can clearly see today, everybody is submitting to Rome, right? Nobody trying to fight back. And those of us that are, they've already prepared you to write us off and call us antichrist, right? Yes, we're antichrist. We are against the Christ you have created, and you've caused all our nation to fall asleep and worship this garbage, this fictitious creation of Rome, right? In the following quote, which could have well been studied by the young Titus Flavius during his education at the imperial court, Cicero not only prefigures much of the Christian theology, but also actually advocates for the state to persuade the masses to adopt the theology most appropriate for the empire. Hey, babe. Quote, we must persuade our citizens that the gods are the lords and rulers of all things, and what is done by their will and authority, and they are the great benefactors of men, and know who everyone is, and what he does, and what sins he commits, and what he intends to do, and with what piety he fulfills his religious duties. End quote. And that is Cicero, and it's found in the Laws, chapter 2, verses 15 through 16. Rome attempted not to replace the gods of its provinces, but to absorb them. By the end of the 1st century, Rome... That's on my lip. Oh, it's not. Oh, thank you for coming down here. I had nothing on my lip. Oh. They probably couldn't see it. Thank you for coming down here. Help my sister out. Okay. Thank you. Roman citizens were encouraged to give offerings to all these gods as a way of maintaining the Pax Deorum, Paxdeorum, the peace of the gods, as a condition that the Caesars saw as beneficial to the empire. The Romans also used religion as a tool to assist them in the conquest. The leader of the Roman army, the consul, was a religious leader capable of communicating with the gods. The Romans developed a specific ritual for inducing the gods of their enemies to defect to Rome. In this particular ritual, the devotio, a Roman soldier, sacrificed himself to all the gods, including those of the enemy. In this way, the Romans sought to neutralize their opponent's divine assistance. Thus, when Rome went to war with the Zealots in Judea, it had a long tradition of absorbing the religions of its opponents. And we can clearly tell most people haven't heard about what happened before Constantine. But Constantine is a part of all of this, as we're going to see. And he just kind of carried on a lot of this stuff that we see today in 325 when he was the emperor, right? Or he was the Pontiff Maximus, right? Okay. If Romans did invent Christianity, it would have been yet another example of neutralizing an enemy's religion by making it their own rather than fighting against it. Rome would simply have transformed the militant Judaism of first century Judea into a pacifist religion to more easily absorb it into the empire. In any event, it is certain that the Caesars did attempt to control Judaism. From Julius Caesar on, the Roman emperor claimed personal authority over the religion and selected its high priest. Quote, Caius Julius Caesar, imperator and high priest and dictator, sendeth greeting. I will that Hyrcanus, the son of Alexander, and his children have the high priesthood of the Jews forever. And if at any time hereafter there arise any questions about the Jewish customs, I will that he determine the same. End quote. Like, really, how are you going to come into a whole nation of people that already has their own everything set out, and you just set your own priests and prophets in place? That's what they do. That's what they did, y'all. That's why we're trying to weed out this leaven. We separating the error from the truth, right? Even all our brothers and sisters that have come out of Christianity, even into the Hebrew roots, they bought some of that stuff and just kind of changed the names of some of the stuff. But it's still this disgusting thing that they created, and we have to cut it off at the root. Okay. Roman emperors appointed all the high priests recorded within the New Testament from a restricted circle of families who were allied to Rome. By selecting the individual who would determine any issue of Jewish customs, the Caesars were managing Jewish theology for their own self-interest. Of course, what other way would a Caesar have to manage a religion, right? Remember from the last couple of days as they was explaining it, the only way they were going to be able to infiltrate the Hebrews, although they're using the word Jews here, right? Jews simply refer to those who come from the kingdom of Judah, right? But as a whole, Hebrews, right? The only way that they were going to be able to deceive them or to water down that fire that they had going on and where they were constantly fighting against Rome, they had to infiltrate them. And they realized the only way that they could infiltrate this people and the divine assistance that they had was to mess with their laws, which is the very reason why they began to create this religion. And they began to they had some people who defected from our people and we're giving them information, and Paul is like a ringleader, right? They've taken those who really understand the laws and the statutes really well, and they've infiltrated and they've added things. They tried to use the language that was written in our laws, and they tried to, and when they tried, they added stuff all the way through from the beginning to the end, which causes our people when you're using and you're trying to keep to the laws, it's still kind of powerless. Even while I was in Christianity, I would wonder, I'm like, where is the power? Why do we still seem powerless? It seems like we're doing what it says to do, but we're still powerless. Why aren't we seeing any of the power or Yahuwah showing up? Like little small bits and pieces we'll see Yahuwah give wins to us and in our life or whatever on a personal level. But as a whole, as a nation, what's the deal? What's going on, right? That's why we have to remove all the error from the truth, right? And which is why I tell you, you must go through yourself and read through the Torah, right? Read through it like we've been doing for the last few years together, right? I was doing it before then, but together we're doing it because I want to show you something. When you become familiar with the voice and the tone of Yah and how he operates, you will begin to notice things that don't quite fit. And it seems like, wait a minute, that was oddly placed there for some reason. I don't quite understand why. But then you begin to recognize, wait a minute, the tone changes. Yahuwah doesn't speak like that. Yahuwah doesn't operate like this. What is this, right? You don't notice that if you don't read it enough, right? So you never catch on to the tricks. All right. Rome exercised control over the religion in a way that was unique in the history of its provincial governments. Rome micromanaged Second Temple Judaism to the extent of even determining when its priests could wear their holy vestments. Yes. Okay. Go on through there. Well, if Joshua's not up, go use that one. Log him out and you log in.
I don't want to.
Well, don't come in here complaining to me,
I
Isaiah.
want to get on that one.
You can go back upstairs too.
When the second
Isaiah, go on. Take my staff. Move.
I can't get on.
Look, go away from here with that wine and move. Bye. Give me this. Go. Thank you. All right, y'all. Quote. Hold on. The Romans took possession of these vestments of the high priest and had them reposited in a stone chamber, and 7 days before a festival they were delivered to the high priest, end quote. And Josephus said that in Antiquities chapter 18 4, no, what is this? They got this page, oh no, I think it's pages. No, it has to be chapters, y'all. 18:4, 93 through 94. I'm not sure why they out of order. That's what threw me off because it only had commas. Okay. In spite of these efforts, Rome's...
Mom?
Yes. Guys, can y'all wait till I'm done?
Why is he mad?
Go ask Zay why he mad, sis.
Why is he mad?
Go ask him why he mad.
God, why is he mad?
In spite of these efforts, Rome's normal policy of absorbing the gods of its provinces did not succeed in Judea. Judaism would not permit its God to be just one among many, and Rome was forced to battle one Jewish insurrection after another. Yes.
I can do my high school by myself.
No, when I'm done, I will. But you can't because you're going to need to move this, and I don't want you dropping anything. Having failed to control Judaism by naming its high priest, the imperial family would next attempt to control the religion by rewriting its Torah. I believe they took this step and created the Gospels to initiate a version of Judaism more acceptable to the empire, a religion that instead of waging war against its enemies would turn the other cheek. You smack one, turn your face and let them smack the other. Like I said yesterday, if I was outside, I'd spit on the ground, but I'm in my house. You see this garbage? The theory of a Roman invention of Christianity does not originate with this work. Bruno Bauer, a 19th century German scholar, believed that Christianity was Rome's attempt to create a mass religion that encouraged slaves to accept their station in life. Ain't that? Go submit to your master. Yeah. In our era, Robert Eisman concluded that the New Testament was the literature of a Judaic messianic movement rewritten with a pro-Roman perspective. This work, however, presents a completely new way of understanding the New Testament. I will show that the Gospels were created to be understood on two levels. On its surface level, they are, of course, a description of the ministry of a miracle-working Messiah who rose from the dead. However, the New Testament was also designed to be understood in another way, which is as a satire of Titus Flavius' military campaign through Judea. The proof of this is simply that Jesus and Titus share parallel experiences at the same locations and in the same sequence. Those parallels are both too exact and too complex to have occurred by chance. That this fact has been overlooked for 2 millennia represents a blind spot in scholarship. The Gospels were designed to become apparent as satire as soon as they were read in conjunction with Wars of the Jews. In fact, I will show that the 4 Gospels and Wars of the Jews were created as a unified piece of literature whose characters and stories interact. Their interaction gives many of Jesus' sayings a darkly comical meaning and also creates a series of puzzles whose solutions reveal the real identities of the New Testament's characters. Understanding the New Testament's black comedy level reveals, for example, that the apostles Simon and John were cruel lampoons of Simon and John, the leaders of the Jewish rebellion. Throughout this work, I refer to Jesus' ministry as a satire of Titus's military campaign. I do so because the ministry was based on the campaign and was intended to be seen as blackly humorous when viewed from that perspective. However, the relationship between these two ministries was not simply satirical. I shall show that Jesus' ministry was designed to prove that he was the Malachi or messenger of the true Messiah, Titus Flavius. Malachi means my messenger in Hebrew and was used as a cognomen for the prophet Elijah. This is because Judaic prophecy foretold that the Messiah would be preached by the appearance of Elijah, who would act as the messenger of his imminent coming. Quote, "But I shall send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord." End quote. Malachi chapter 3, verse 23. To show that Jesus' ministry was a forerunner of Titus's campaign, the authors of the New Testament and Wars of the Jews used typology, a technique that runs throughout Judaic literature. Key incidents in Jesus' ministry were created to be seen as the type or prophetical basis for the events from Titus's campaign and thereby prove that Jesus had been made the Malachi of Titus. I will also show that Josephus falsified the dates of events in Wars of the Jews to create the impression that the prophecies of Daniel came to pass during the war between the Romans and the Jews. This was done to provide proof for the New Testament's claim on its surface level and that the Son of God foreseen by Daniel was Jesus. And we kind of talk about this, right? When we get to Daniel, we'll tell y'all that this Son of Man is not JC, right? Listen, the way they get you, the way the church teaches it, they teach you that anytime you see Son of Man, that's a foreshadowing of Jesus, and it's not, right? Okay. I read this again. But the way that they teach it, that's why they always go to Daniel, because they're looping all of this stuff together, right? They're pushing one storyline for a campaign, right? To subdue you. This was done to provide proof for the New Testament's claim on its surface level that the Son of God foreseen by Daniel was Jesus. The histories of Josephus and the New Testament are perhaps the most scrutinized works in literature, and I encourage skepticism of my claim to having discovered a new, true way of understanding them. Throughout the ages, the New Testament has been an intellectual kaleidoscope within which fantastic prophecies and codes have often been discovered. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and I would not be presenting this work if I could not meet the criterion. However, it was the case that the Flavians possessed both the motivation and the capacity to create a version of Judaism aligned with their interests. Any honest seeker of Christianity's origin must, therefore, at least consider the possibility that the Flavians produced the Gospels. Further, the core of Jesus' prophecies, the Galilean villages laid low, Jerusalem encircled a wall, the temple left without a single stone atop another, and the wicked generation destroyed, all share one characteristic. Each is a military victory of the Flavian family. Thus, the oft-cited principle that history is written by the victors suggests that the family should be the first group we investigate. This is why we should attempt to understand the Gospels as they would have been understood by someone familiar with the conquest of Judea by Titus Flavius, the emperor of Rome. And with this perspective, a completely different meaning of the Gospels becomes visible. They proclaim the divinity of Caesar. And that, my beautiful people, is where we will end our reading for today. And that is the end of chapter 1. Y'all, it's getting good. It's going to get so much better. It's going to open your eyes to some stuff that we've been trying to tell you, right? All this stuff, remember, it's a lot of people. I ain't the only one, right? I'm the newcomer to the party, right? I'm like, what in the world is going on here, right? And so as I began to notice this stuff, and mind you, I didn't have any of these references, or I hadn't even come across all of this stuff yet, but I knew something was off. I knew because I constantly read through the Torah, the Old Testament. I constantly read through it. And mind you, I had grew up reading the New Testament all my life. Like, I lived in that book. I can almost repeat it to you verbatim, right? But when I stopped doing that, and I went to the Old Testament, and as I started reading these red flags and these contradictions and all these things, because you hear people talking about it, oh, the Bible contradicts itself. And some people, they don't know how to answer it. They don't know what's going on. It's like, oh, the Bible don't contradict itself. Scripture interprets Scripture, which Scripture does interpret Scripture, but there are contradictions, and you need to find out why they're there and who put them there, right? To make sure you, as you read, you know what's garbage and what's good, right? And through all of this, we're showing you, I was elated to find that I wasn't tripping. As I went searching into why is this, now I understand, because I used to be one of the ones, the Bible don't contradict itself. Get out of here. You just making excuses for want to live a life of sin, right? That was me, y'all. I was that person. Ugh. Every time I think about it, I want to choke myself out. I'm like, girl, people was trying to wake you up, and you just la 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 la, frolicking along the tulips with this created Jesus that I'm loving oh so much. I'm just like, wait a minute, I feel like the dumbest person alive. I'm like, man. And I began to see over the course of my life when different people just kind of used to drop stuff. You might want to check into that. Is it really? You know, because people with wisdom, sometimes they know they can't just give you stuff, right? They just got to ask you very specific questions to make you think, right? Because your wheels have to get turning, right? I'm like, wait a minute. What? Say that again? Right? So that's what began to happen to me. And then about a year later, after me reading, not necessarily a whole year either, once I began realizing something ain't right, the tone seems to change too much. Father, I know you're not bipolar. I was like, I know they said that you said this, but something's off about this, you know. Just like I said, when you're familiar with somebody's voice or you have a real relationship with somebody, you know about their characteristics and like you just know them. So if somebody comes impersonating them, like, wait a minute, that ain't John. Nope. That is not John's voice. John don't act like that. He wouldn't even do anything like that. That is not how he operates. That is not even his personality. You know, you can kind of get close to it, but you can tell, right? You've been intimate or you've been close enough in relationship enough with a person to know when something is off or something is not quite right? And that's what begins to happen with the constant reading of the Torah. And I began to notice these things and I started searching. I'm like, okay, something's going on here that I don't quite understand. This is not adding up, right? And in my search, I started going through this, and then I started at one little, like I said, start pulling that sweater string, that little just pesky string, and you begin pulling the string, and now the sweater, oh shoot. And sometimes you try to snatch fast to rip it off, and sometimes it come off, sometimes it rip more. So I'm like, oh my gosh, and you gotta, if you want to completely ignore it, you just go cut it off, right? You know, and then you just walk around with a half raggedy sweater, but that ain't cute, right? Sis, what's going on with your sweater sleeve? Don't worry about that. We just put, just push it up and try to ignore it, right? But everybody see that's a raggedy sweater you got on, right? It's just like that, going through the Gospels and the New Testament and realizing, wait a minute, we have inherited lies too. What is going on, right? So our whole purpose is really to wake up our brothers and sisters. And a lot of the questions people are afraid to ask for fear of being ridiculed and called antichrist, like they prepare you and train you to do when you start waking up and realizing that this is satire and they're making fun of you. They prepare you. In Christian church, ready for it. Don't you go in there telling them none of this. They antichrist, pray for them, say that so you're going to hell. They're going to give you up to Satan. Bruh. I'm telling you, they prepare you. I didn't run into it. I'm telling you, I just, you know what, set my face like a flint, and I'm going to keep on going, right? You don't believe me? You ain't got to believe me, but I'm just saying, don't disregard everything. Just kind of take it, put it to the side. Revisit it later if you might not be ready for it just yet, right? All right, y'all, so I hope y'all enjoyed the reading today. Let me get this page number. We read the last two chapters of Joel, chapter 2 and 3. We read the first chapter of Amos. And then we read Caesar's Messiah, the rest of chapter 1, which we started at page 35. And it ends on page 46. So we'll pick up chapter 2 tomorrow. Actually, I think we might be able to. I wonder if we can read all of chapter 2. We're definitely going to read all of chapter 2 tomorrow. Yeah. It's definitely not as long as chapter 1. So we might even be able to get into some of chapter 3. But for sure, and it's Saturday too. I'll ask y'all tomorrow. We'll see what time we at. Oh, we might. Y'all, we might be able to read 2 chapters tomorrow. They both pretty short. Okay. All right. If you got the book, you can read ahead if you want. Or listen to it if you downloaded the Audible or whatever. If not, you can just wait for tomorrow. Or whatever. I'll leave a link like I always do if you want to get a copy. If not, you don't want to spend your money, that's cool too. At least stay here and hear it. So, right, you can hear it. And there's also, if you haven't watched the documentary, the ones who wrote the book, they actually put together a documentary with some graphics and stuff, and it's really good. And that'll be posted in the description box and pinned in the comment section as well. That was pretty good. It sums it up. So if you want to watch that, I recommend that you do watch this. It's really, really good. But with that being said, that's it. Let's go ahead and do the blessing, y'all. It is Friday, September the 3rd, 2021. Day 250 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets and of the 3-year consecutive day count. Day 919. All right, y'all. The blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. Remember, the first 21 verses of this chapter is the Nazarite Vow. And man or woman can take it. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, Yahuwah will kneel before us, presenting gifts, and will guard us with a hedge of protection. Yahuwah will illuminate the wholeness of his being towards us, bringing order. And he will provide us with love, sustenance, and friendship. Yahuwah will lift up his wholeness of being and look upon us, and he will set in place all we need to be whole and complete. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel. Whose name? Yahuwah's name. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people. That's it. Enjoy your Friday. Thanks for hanging out. Let me check the questions real quick. Facebook. There's a few comments. I think I answered. You right, Jaden. We gotta listen to the Most High Yahuwah, not these New Testament writers. All right, y'all. You're welcome, Jeff Denton. All right, y'all. Love y'all. See y'all back here tomorrow. Remember, on the weekends, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Love y'all. See you in the morning. Peace.